Okay, we are going to get started in a second as I go live. Yay! What will happen is if you're in my Zoom room, then people will be able to hear you, but they would not be able to see you. And then, we're just going to go through and go over stuff since this is an extra one. I'm just going to pull this up here and I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Badoop, badoop, badoop. Actually, Crystal, you want to go, if you want everybody to see you, stay figured. But if you don't want to be seen, you're going to turn off your camera. There you go. Right. I mean, you are more than welcome to stay on camera, but I just like to tell people. And I am going to share my screen. Oh, you are so very welcome, Rosalinda. I do not mind at all. I know there are other people that said they were coming because I was going to have at least five. Let's see what happens. Otherwise, let's share my screen and get to it. Let's see, let's see, let's see. Do, do, do. Mm-mm. Hopefully, everybody had a lovely weekend. All right, that's that. And that's that. And now I want to be able to, oh, you know what? We're good. Actually, I should be able to see you all. Boop a doop a doo. There. I think we're good. I did have a good weekend. I literally taught all weekend, so that was, you know, it's your norm, but it's okay. So, and I see there's some people on YouTube. Hello, YouTube people. And this is for everybody. If there's something that you want me to go over, all you need to do is just say yes now, or just say something. Otherwise, we're just going to go over these questions. But again, if you have a specific question or if there's something you want me to specifically go over, since this is an extra session, I don't mind at all. Right? So let's get to number 18. Number 18, you all are going to put your answer in the chat because, and if it's something you have a question about, again, let me know. Hello, Miss Caroline. So, which of the following is required for a real estate contract to be legally enforceable? Which of the following is required for a contract to be legally enforceable? I feel like we just had this question previously, did we? Maybe I'm going crazy. Mm, I guess we did. Oh, we did deeds. That's what it was. So if you're following along while I do this, we had a question about deeds. What has to be in a deed to be effective? And this question is asking what has to be in a real estate contract. Right? So when we're talking about real estate contracts, what we know is that there has to be four, or actually really five things, right? There's five things that have to be in a real estate contract. We know that it has to have mutual agreement, has to have consideration. That's the thing of value that is being exchanged. You have to have legal capacity. So you have to be over 18. You can't be high or drunk, or the courts can't have said you're incompetent or anything like that. And it has to have a lawful objective. Now, all of these, all contracts must have these things. But since this is a real estate contract, we know it has to be in writing because of the statute of frauds. Now, you'll notice sometimes when I'm doing these questions with you all, even before I look at the answer choices, I will tell you what I know or talk about what I think we need to know. And that is awesome because that way we can just match up the information. When you're taking your test, it can go either way. And I see that you all are telling me that the answer is B. So I like that because it says, well, it doesn't have to be notarized. We don't have that. It doesn't have to be signed by a witness. It doesn't have to be, or it should not be verbal because it has to be in writing, meaning B is our answer. It does have to be in writing. Nice job. I feel like you all get a.
That's a good job, man. Y'all are doing a very good job.
I like it. All right, let's go. Hello, MacDeal. I see you. You're there in the chat. I'm glad that you're here. If you want the, oh well, I can't kind of email you right now, but next time you can be in the Zoom room. All right. 19. In a traditional real estate transaction, what type of agency relationship exists when a broker represents the buyer and the seller? In a traditional real estate transaction, what type of agency relationship exists when a broker represents the buyer and the seller? We've got exclusive agency, open agency, dual agency, or single agency. All right. Which one you got? All right, Miss Crystal, you say C. Miss Rosalinda, you're saying C. And Caroline, you said C because our answer is in fact C. Why is it C? Well, because that is the definition of dual agency. But as you've heard me say many, many times before, it's great that we know the answer is C, dual agency. And good job, McDeal. Yes, the answer is C. And you know that.
I like carrots, and you should too. It goes crunch, 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 and it's good for you. We like carrots, and you should too. It goes crunch, crunch, crunch.
Right? Gotta play the carrot song. We gotta play the carrot song. But we also want to go through and make sure you understand or you know the other definitions, right? Rosalinda, you missed the carrot song. I know you did. So exclusive agency. We know exclusive agency when there's one listing agent, but you don't get paid if the seller finds the buyer. This is a type of seller agency. The seller would sign a listing agreement with your broker, and it says, look, we're going to go and we're going to market your property, and that's all going to be cool. But if seller, you find the buyer, you don't owe us a commission. If a buyer comes from an open house or we bring a buyer as an agent or another firm or another broker brings a buyer, we've earned our commission. But seller, if you find the buyer, we don't get paid, right? Then we got open agency. And this is where there's multiple agents working for the seller. And basically the seller says, I'm only paying the broker who finds the buyer. And then single agency, where these two were all about seller agency, they're types of seller agency. This is like, how is the client being represented? Single agency means the broker, or if you're in North Carolina, the broker in charge, the firm, however you want to say it, they are only representing one side. It's either the buyer or the seller, not both. Because if it was both, it'd be dual agency. Make sense? Again, ask questions if it's not making sense. 20. What is the best definition of depreciation in real estate? Well, anytime I get these questions where they're like, what's the best definition? You want to go with the most correct answer that doesn't make you have to go, well, if this is right and then this could be. You want to go with the answer that's going to be correct without having to add more information there. So let's see what we've got. We got depreciation, an increase in property value over time. Well, we can take that right off the list because if it was an increase, wouldn't we call this appreciation? Yeah. Now I see, MacDeal, you're saying the answer is D. We'll see if you're right. So this is appreciation. A decrease in land value over time. Okay. I mean, this time at least we have a decrease, but it's not the right answer. It's not the right answer because in real estate, we don't depreciate land. That's not it. We are assuming land doesn't depreciate. So a lot of people might read that and jump to it. It's not the answer. C, a reduction in property value due to external market factors. That could be a reason for depreciation, but I'm going to go with y'all that said D, a loss of value over time in the property structures or improvements. Well, first, I like the fact that we didn't depreciate the land. And second, the problem with C is that depreciation could be more than just due to external market factors. So the most complete, the best answer is going to be D. Very good. Nice job. We love it. All right. 21. Mhm. Which type of loan typically does not require a down payment and is exclusively, I like that word exclusively, kind of stands out there, available to eligible veterans and active duty service members? Which of these loan types is only for veterans? Is it FHA loan, B, USDA loan, C, VA loan, or D, HUD loan? Now, y'all ladies in my Zoom, you were real quick to be like, the answer is C. We'll see if MacDeal thinks it's okay. We have a consensus because we know that C stands for what?
C is for cookie. That's good enough for me.
Or sometimes I teach you all it stands for conditional, a fee simple conditional, and you got to go to court. But yes, our answer is C, a VA loan. Now, the next question I'm going to ask you is, do you feel comfortable with the different types of loans? That's going to be a great thing, a really popular thing they're going to test you on, the different types of loans. So make sure you study that. 22. What does a counter offer in a real estate transaction represent? What does a counter offer in a real estate transaction represent? Is it A, a rejection of the original offer? Is it B, acceptance of the original offer? C, a willingness to start the negotiation process? Or D, a unilateral contract? Oh, this is a good one. All right, Caroline, you're telling me it's A, it's a rejection of the original offer. Okay, I can see that. If it's A, then why are the other ones wrong? Well, the answer is A. You will hear me say over and over, a counter is a rejection of the original offer, and it's the person who received the offer, the offeree, it's their ability to go back and be like, how about this instead? I see you there. I see you there, sir. You were like, hey, like, in fact, MacDeal, you said, hey, oh, you got that stretched out. Hey, oh, kind of like a Fonzie. So our answer is a rejection of the original counter offer or the original offer. It is a rejection of the original offer plus another offer going to the other side. 23. A listing agent is obligated to keep confidential information about the seller's motivations for selling even after the agency relationship ends. This duty is an example of which fiduciary responsibility? A listing agent is obligated to keep confidential information about the seller's motivations for selling. So like if they're facing foreclosure, if they have to move quickly, that's your job to keep that confidential if you're the listing agent. even after the agency relationship ends. This duty is an example of which fiduciary duty? Obedience, loyalty, confidentiality, or disclosure. A, B, C, or D. All right. So we have D, disclosure. D, disclosure. I think, yeah, okay, we got 2 disclosures so far. Well, it sounds like you all know that it's not obedience, because we know when it comes to our fiduciary duties, we owe old car, obedience, loyalty, disclosure of all information, uh, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable skill and care. I had to think about it for a second. But this question says after the agency relationship ends, you got to keep stuff confidential after your relationship ends, making our answer C, confidentiality. The answer is C, confidentiality. But why is it not D? The disclosure is making sure when you're somebody's agent, you tell your client, you disclose anything that you need to tell them, whether it's material facts, facts about the transaction, facts about the property they're buying, you must disclose it. But after the agency relationship ends, you no longer need to give those fiduciary duties to your client. However, I want to say this, and I want to be very clear. If you are in North Carolina only, because I know I have some of my own students, this statement is not true. This question is not true in North Carolina. You don't owe confidentiality after the relationship is over. So let me explain what I mean. Let's say that the seller is selling because they are getting a new job. Or let's just say getting a new job. If it's the rest of the United States, this is something you would keep confidential always. Even when your relationship is over, even when that listing agreement is over, you must always keep this confidential. You gonna stay in place here thing? Let's see. Always keep it confidential. But in North Carolina, that same piece of information, oh, the seller sold because they got a new job, blah, 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 whatever it is, this is not true. So what does this mean in real life? Because this is going to be something you need to understand, both if you're in North Carolina or not in North Carolina. Let's say you are the listing agent. Let's say that, McDeal, you are the listing agent. You're the agent for the seller, and let's say the seller is me. Okay. And you find out that I'm selling because I'm getting a new job, right? My listing agent. Now, you are like, oh, Candace, I can get it sold within 30 days. Don't you worry. So we only sign a listing agreement for 30 days. After 30 days, we're not under contract. We're not closing. And I'm like, ooh, you lied to me. You didn't get this done in 30 days. Well, so I go over and I'm like, okay, I'm going to let Caroline be my agent. I change brokers, companies completely. I was with McDeal and his company. Now I'm with Caroline and her company. In the rest of the United States, or in general, the way you're going to be tested on a national level is the agent, McDeal. If you then find a buyer for the property that I'm now listing with Caroline, you are not allowed to tell your new buyer the things that you learned about me while you were my agent. Can't do that. But in North Carolina, you would be able to do that. In North Carolina, if you were my listing agent, I fired you or I let you go or I stopped with you, and then you have a buyer for my property, I've listed with a new agent, you owe confidentiality to the new client, not to me as your old client. So that seems like a small thing, but definitely something you need to know for North Carolina, and making sure if you're in a different state, you understand that. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm gonna grab some more water. Agua. 24. Ooh, and let me rewind for a second and just say this, if you're in North Carolina, this is about your laws and rules. You need to make sure you understand those. 24. Which of the following actions would likely violate the Federal Fair Housing Act? You know what I just had a thought of? You know how there's that app where you can have like you give it something to read and then it reads it back in the voice of somebody famous? What if I could figure out a way to have like Snoop Dogg read number 24 and maybe have, I don't know, Ricky Martin read number 25 and I don't know, Oprah Winfrey read 26. What if I could have different voices of famous people reading these questions and answers, and then I would explain? That would be awesome. Okay, which of these following actions would likely violate the Federal Fair Housing Act? Refusing to rent to a tenant with poor credit history, expressing a preference for single tenants over married couples, setting different terms for renting based on national origin, or charging higher rent to tenants with pets. I wish I could do impressions. That would be fun, but I can't do any impressions. I do an impression of a crazy person real well. Well, this would help if we know what our protected classes for fair housing are. So we know it's Fred's Corn. It's Fred's Corn without the vowels. We've taken out that E in Fred and the O in corn, and we're taking to equal opportunity. My dad joked there. So the F stands for familial status, whether or not there's children on the property. The R stands for race. The D stands for disability. The S is for sex, but we get to encompass sex, gender, sexual orientation. The C is for color. You cannot discriminate based on the color of somebody's skin. The R is for religion, and the N is for national origin. Well, right there, this should tell us the answer. This is why I like our mnemonic devices, because you see right here, just like Caroline said, see, you got this national origin. That is our correct answer. However, what we want to make sure that we look at is this idea of why these other ones aren't covered. Now, this poor credit history, if you're not paying your bills, I mean, they don't have to let you rent. Nobody is owed rent. I mean, like, I don't want people to be homeless, but if you got bad credit, you got bad credit. Fine. Expressing a preference for single tenants over married couples. Now, marital status is protected in some states. And if we're talking about on a national stage, this would be a problematic, whether somebody's married or not, their marital status, for the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, ECOA, Equal Credit Opportunity Act. That would be illegal there, but our federal fair housing doesn't say anything about married couples. Nor does it say anything about pets, so our answer has to be C. Eliminate answers, and you're more likely to get the right answer. All right. Number 25. Which of the following fiduciary duties? And remember, fiduciary just means like trust. Somebody trusts you. You have a responsibility towards them. Which of the following fiduciary duties is least likely? Least likely. A lot of questions ask most likely, but are least likely to apply to an agent's relationship with a customer in real estate. Which of the following of these duties is least likely to apply. So maybe there are some times that some of these would be applied to your customer, but which one is most likely going to, your customer's just never going to get it? Is it A, loyalty, B, honesty, C, disclosure, or D, accounting? Once again, we can do our old car list. Obedience, loyalty, disclosure of all information, confidentiality, accounting, reasonable skill and care. Well, this is a customer, not a client. And if you're one of my students that haven't gotten to this yet in the class, remember there is a difference between the client and the customer. The client is who you work for. It's who you're protecting. Your customer is who you work with. Think of it this way. You were to go to Walmart or Target. Well, let's say Walmart. If you were to ask somebody who works there, hey, I'm looking for I don't know, a shower head enhancement. Maybe you want to do like something that shoots out the power a little bit more, or I love my big rain shower. You ask somebody like that in Walmart, they're going to treat you like a customer. They're not there where their sole focus is to show you loyalty, to be as helpful as possible. This is not Chick-fil-A. When you have a customer, all you owe them is fairness, honesty, and disclosure of material facts. They wanted confidentiality and make sure that you didn't spread their information about. They should have hired an agent, because if you make that person your agent, they have to do that. Oh, you want to make sure that you're getting that you are giving a good price, you're not overpaying or anything like that. You need an agent for that. If you're a customer, you're just working with the agent. If you're a client, that agent is working for you. So no, you don't owe loyalty. You do owe, well, actually, let me not mess up my own thing. I was reading so much into it. We're looking for what is least likely to be there. So actually, we want one of these things. Anything that's on this list is what we want. See how easy it is to mess that up? And this is why usually when I do questions with you all, you'll see me say that 3 of these things are to be given to customer, and 1 of these things not likely to be given to customer. So we're looking for the thing that you wouldn't give a customer. And you know what? Going back to what I just said, you would not be giving loyalty to your customer. What you owe your customer is fairness, honesty, and disclosure of material facts. Let's be very clear. You owe everybody disclosure of material facts. And this accounting, you would still owe accounting to a customer. If you're the listing agent and the customer hands you an earnest money check, when we say accounting, that means you can't go take their earnest money check, even if they aren't your client, and go on a shopping spree. You can't do that. When we talk about accounting, we're talking about responsibility for monies. So you would owe that to a customer, but there's no reason why you should ever show loyalty to a customer. Your loyalty is always to your client. And if you're in a state where you can practice transaction brokerage, where you're not working for the buyer or the seller, you still can't give a piece of information or to one and not the other. You cannot show loyalty or preference to one or the other. It just can't happen. McDeal, you're crying. All I get is the purple face crying. It describes it. You must be on an Android, messing up my chat there. So you must be, Okay, I see you. And you know what I'm going to say to your Android? Nope. Shouldn't have an Android. Messing up my chat. Just saying. All right, 26. And somewhat. Why am I so thirsty today? What is the main purpose, keywords here, main purpose of property disclosure requirements in real estate transactions? What is the main purpose of property disclosure requirements in real estate transactions? Is it A, to minimize broker's liability for an agent's negligence? I don't think that's the main reason why you have to disclose things, or there has to be a property disclosure. B, to provide buyers with essential information about the property's condition. Well, that's a much better answer than A. I think I can go ahead and take A off because at the very least, B was a better answer. C, to protect the sellers from all legal liability that may arise after the sale. You wish that's how it worked, but that is not how it works. A seller can't lie to you. Now, we know in the state of North Carolina, we actually sell all houses caveat emptor. A seller doesn't necessarily have to tell you anything, nor do they have to fix anything. It's not true in a lot of other states. In a lot of other states, if the seller knows something is wrong, they have to share it with you. So this is not to protect them. The main purpose is not to protect the seller. Okay? Or to protect the lender's investment in the property. Nope, that's what an appraisal's for. Our answer is going to be B, to provide buyers with essential information about the property's condition. This is the seller saying, dear buyer, here's what we know about the condition of our house. Right? 27. A title theory state who holds legal title. Y'all, I've been talking all day. Have I had a day off of not talking in over a week? Yeah, I work a lot. So, in a title theory state, who holds legal property ownership until the mortgage debt is paid, fully repaid? In a title theory state, who holds legal ownership until the mortgage debt is fully repaid? Is it the borrower? Is it the trustee? Is it C, the remainder man? Or is it D, the lender? Ooh, what are we thinking? All right, Caroline, you said B. B, trustee. All right. All right, you said D, lender. Hey, Trix. All right. So who holds legal property ownership until the mortgage debt is repaid? Now, hopefully you all know it's not the borrower and it's not the remainder man. So who's holding the legal property ownership? I would say, remember, when you've got a title theory state, the buyer, let's say this is the original seller, they're giving title to the buyer. And then the buyer turns around and gives title to the bank. They give title to the bank. So they're passing off title to the bank because that's the bank's house until you pay it off. So then if we understand that, is it the lender or is it the trustee? This is so splitting hairs. I would say it's owned by the trust. Your title is literally held in a trust. Now, whether you want to call that trust, since the trust is kind of run by the lender, do you want to call that lender or do you want to call it trustee? Or is it going to be that third party, thing? So that's hard. Trustee, lender, this is where I'd go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Because the trustee doesn't really own it. They supervise the trust. Just like the bank, they're going to be the beneficiary. So I wouldn't probably go with the D, the beneficiary. If anything, I would go with, it doesn't say beneficiary. The lender would be the beneficiary. So, oof. It's hard. I don't know if I want to say that this, since this is the beneficiary, this is the person who owns it, or if it's a trustee. And my gut's going with the trustee. Let me see what they say. This is what you get when you pay for free stuff. So, which is, it's like an opinion. It's worth what you paid for it. 27. All right, they said the answer is D, and let me read their explanation. In a title theory state, the lender retains legal property ownership until the borrower has fully repaid the mortgage. This differs from a lien theory state where the borrower holds title while the lender has a lien on the property as security for a loan. So yes, that's not wrong, but if you're going to give me trustee and lender, you need to give me more words, because it's not the bank that literally gets title. It goes into a trust. It's a deed of trust. That trust owns your property until you pay it off. And then when you pay that off, it goes back to you as the buyer. So I'm not really liking my two answer choices on 27, but it's a great conversational opportunity. 28. Which of the following scenarios would violate the Sherman Antitrust Act? Which of the following scenarios would violate the Sherman Antitrust Act? Well, let's talk about the Sherman Antitrust Act, because this does affect us as agents. If you go, especially if you go into residential sales, the Realtor Association is going through a lawsuit right now, and part of what's on the table is, hey, are Zillow and the MLS, are they creating a monopoly? Meaning, hey, you have to either go through Zillow or you have to go through the MLS, and you are limiting who can do what in certain ways. Is this an antitrust violation? You know what? Attorneys much scarier or much smarter than me can figure this out. And Mary, hi, don't worry, I'll go back over it, Miss Mary. Whether we did or not, I mean, I think we did break some antitrust stuff, but that's just me personally. I think as agents, we could be a little bit more clear. But let's look at these. Remember, antitrust is about not creating a free and open market. Let's pretend that all cable companies, like if you wanted cable, Netflix, Disney Plus, like all of the TV networks came together and were owned by one conglomerate. If you get mad at them, you can't go anyplace else. There's no competition for the business. That's going to be an antitrust violation. It's one type, but let's see what we got here. Is it A, holding free informational seminar for first-time home buyers to generate leads? Nope, there's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing wrong with that. B, collaborating with other real estate firms to divide up neighborhoods to avoid competition. I don't like that so much. I don't like that. C, offering discounts on commission rates for repeat customers. There's nothing wrong with that. Your commission rate is your commission rate. If you want it to be a free commission rate, hey, more power to you. Or D, hosting a professional development seminar to discuss how to provide better customer service to clients. That's not a problem either. Our answer is B, collaborating with other real estate firms to divide up neighborhoods to avoid competition. Okay, so I'm going to take neighborhood A, and you're going to take neighborhood B, and you're going to take neighborhood C. And okay, if somebody from B comes to, the wrong neighborhood, you're going to send them back to the neighborhood they belong in. That is not cool. You can go to federal prison for that. And as I like to remind you, none of us look good in federal prison orange. I want to rewind, because something you said, Mary, is you get confused between remainder man and a remainder. Are you trying to, you say a remainer, but are you talking about, Mary, a remainder interest? So what you have on the screen, let me find here. You have on here remainder man, which, yes, I will go over for you. But I think the other thing you're saying is remainder interest. or remainder interest, or you could say it's got a remaining interest. Okay, here's the difference. Get some stuff here. The remainder man is a person in an estate, like an estate situation. You know how when you go on Facebook and they're like, it's complicated. That's what we're talking about here. So let's not do the most complicated one we could do, but let's say, okay, we're dealing with the life estate. That life estate, you have the original owner A, and they have fee simple absolute title. They're going to give their property to B, but only as long as B is alive. When B dies, oh, that's his happy face. When B dies, the property could go back to the original in person, or it could go to a new third party. When we call this person the life tenant, and since I didn't say, oh, there's another person whose life is based off on, the life tenant is also the measuring life. The original grantor has to decide, do I want this property to come back to me, or do I want it to go to this new third party? If it's a new third party, we're going to call that person the remainder person, the remainder man. This third person, the person the property is going to when the life tenant dies or the measuring life dies, that's not the original grantee, Tor. Good gosh. Original grantor. That new third person is the remainder man. But up here, you can call it a remainder interest. I know my handwriting's terrible. That doesn't even look like anything. Or we could call it a reverting, a right of reverter or possibility of reverting. It's not a possibility of reverting, but that's what's happening to the interest. It's reverting back to that original grantor. Sense? But how are those people picked? Great question. This person is chosen by the original grantor. So one of the things I like to say, Mary, is let's say you are taking some kids to a park. Which park? That's for you to decide. If you got 3 parks nearby, you get to choose. When you're a original grantor and you have fee simple interest and you're giving a life estate to somebody else, you get to decide, hey, is this coming back to me or is it going back to a third party? Is it reverting back to me or is it going to go to a third party? That third party is the remainder man. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And even if you did know that, it never hurts to hear it again, ever. Mary, does that make sense? If not, let me know. All right. And for those people that got it correct, yay. So, number 29. Which of the following is generally not considered to be an operating expense for investment properties? Oh, and when we finish this one, I'm just going to say somebody who is not here, but is going to watch this recording wanted me to do a points. It's always the points. Wanted me to do a points video. So I'm going to go over a points problem with you. I'll do a points explanation. Again, if I haven't taught this to you in class, it does not hurt to hear it again. Even if you're in California, you still need to know what points are. So, by the way, 29. Which of the following is generally not considered to be an operating expense for investment properties? What this is saying is, hey, which one of these is not going to be something that we assume every single time somebody's like looking at, did I make money this year? Did I not make money this year? Which one is not going to be considered one of those operating expenses? Now, here's the key to operating expenses. All right. The key to operating expenses is operating expenses means any owner would pay. If you own that property, any owner would pay. So, management fees, right? If it's an investment property, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be, sorry, hot my little heater there, there's going to be a management company, right? Now, that is part of your expenses. You can't be there all the time running your investment property. You hire a manager. It doesn't matter who it is, that person would probably be paying management fees. It, yes, would be an operating expense. Accounting, maintenance, routine maintenance, and repairs. Guess what? I don't care who you are. There's always going to be numbers that need to be crunched. There's always going to need to be maintenance and repairs. Things break down. Things need to be kept up. So, and I should say this is an operating expense. This is an operating expense. Monthly mortgage payment. Our questions asked that we're asking ourselves is this something any owner would pay? And the answer to this is no. Now, my plan in the world is to win the lottery. I'm working real hard to win the lottery. I deserve this. So let's say I win the lottery and I buy an apartment building that's got 50 units and I pay cash. If I pay cash, would I have to make monthly mortgage payments? I don't have a mortgage. So no, monthly mortgage payments are not something that any owner would pay. Only those that get a mortgage. So all of this relates to NOI, or net operating income. When you're trying to find a net operating income, and you're usually trying to do that because you're trying to find a value for the property, what we don't factor in is mortgage payments, because that's not something the next owner might have to pay, and that's going to throw off your numbers. Don't do that. Right? So this is not an operating expense. You would use it if you're trying to find your cash throw off or your before tax cash flow, but it's not an operating expense. And then property taxes and insurance. Again, even if I won the lottery and I pay cash, I'm still going to have to pay for property taxes and insurance. Go figure. So our answer for this one is C, monthly mortgage payments. It's okay, Rosalinda. Sometimes you saw me choose a wrong answer. I mean, sometimes I know better. Sometimes you're just not paying attention. All right. Ooh, I like 30, but I know, okay, I promised that person I would go over some points. So let me do that. Even if you're one of my students and we haven't learned this yet, now's a great time to learn, because so many students have an issue with this. So, points. Let's go with this. All right. Let's say you're getting a loan. Nope, that. Let's say your loan is for $350,000 at 7% annual interest. But maybe you had an option of getting that $350,000 loan at 10% annual interest. Which interest rate would you rather have? 7% or 10%? Yeah, you'd rather have 7%. Why? Because it's less money. We know interest is the money you pay to the bank because they loaned you money. All right. I'm going to pay you more. If you loan me $350,000 each year, I'm going to pay you a 7% of whatever I'm borrowing, and that's your money until I pay it off. So obviously 7 is better than 10. Well, what if somebody offered you a loan at 5% annual interest? I think we're understanding that even better than 5% interest, we'll use a better color, purpley, would be even better than 7% would be 5%. Because the lower the interest rate, the less money you pay extra to the bank. That's what we're talking about when we talk about discount points. When we're talking about discount points, generally, now there's a couple uses for them, but usually if we're saying discount points, the buyer or the borrower wants a lower interest rate. So let's say you go to the bank and they're like, oh, we have loans at 10% or 7% or 5%. And you're like, I'll take 5, please. And then they're like, oh, no, but see, we've seen your credit score. Not going to happen today, bucko. We've seen your credit score. They're going to offer you a loan at 7%. And you're like, ooh, that is just a tad bit high. I know you're saying I can have it at 7%. But what if I could get 6.5% instead? What if I want that 6.5%? I mean, it's not quite 5, but bank, would you be willing to do, instead of 7, let's do 6.5. It's a little bit less money. Well, the bank's going to be like, look, this is what we want to charge you. We want to make money off of you. We're not really trying to go down to 6.5% for you. So here's the thing. What you can do is instead of taking 30 years of interest payments at 7%, we'll let you pay at 6.5% if you pay some interest up front. Pay us some interest up front, and then we'll give you 6.5 as an annual percentage rate instead of 7%. So the bank is still making money off of you. You're just going to pay up front instead of paying over time. Does this lower your monthly payment? It does. It does lower your monthly payments because you know if you got a loan at 7%, that's going to be a lower monthly payment than 10%. So yes, the lower your interest rate, generally the lower your P&I or principal and interest payments are going to be. Your T&I, the taxes and insurance, it's a whole different ball of wax. But if we're just talking about the loan payment, you're paying back the money you borrowed and the interest, it will be lower when you pay it down. Right? So they tell you, look, you can pay 6.5% if you pay some interest up front. And here's how they're going to do. They're going to look at your loan and they're going to say, okay, bub, you're starting at 7%. You want this number to go down. And we're going to take steps in 0.125s or 1/8. So yes, upfront interest, discount points are upfront interest, Mary. That's exactly what they are. You are getting played tricks. So what they're saying is, look, if you pay us 1% upfront of your loan amount, we will subtract off 0.125% on your interest rate. So instead of getting a loan at 7%, they will give you a loan at 0.125%, which means your loan's going to be 6.875%. But 1% of your loan is going to be 350 times 1%, which is $3,500. You're going to pay $3,500 at closing on top of everything else that you already know you had to pay. Oh, no worries, Mary. I'm glad. I'm glad you're asking, making sure you understand. You are going to pay $3,500 additional at closing, but now instead of 7%, you're going to be at 6.875%. Side note, where did I get 1.125%? Okay, well, let's talk about this. If you do, the key is, I want you to remember, anytime with points, they will always cost you 1% of the loan amount, and they will move an interest rate 1/8 of a percent. If you take 1 divided by 8 and you put that in your calculator, you're going to get 0.125%. You can mess around with this stuff in fractions. You can mess around with this stuff in decimals. 1/8 is the same as 0.125%. In fact, let me find something. Oh, no, this is the wrong thing. Give me a second. I just want to show you all this. Here. Nope, that's not it. Aha. Fractions. If this is your whole, then a half means you put it into 2 points. Now, this is from another country, so pretend like these are periods. These commas are periods. Right? So if you have eighths, if this is a third, this is a fourth, this is a fifth, this is a sixth, it's a seventh, it's an eighth. What we're saying here is 1/8. Notice over here in this circle, you got one, you split the circle into 8 pieces. You split the bar into 8 pieces. That represents 0.125. You can put in your calculator 1 divided by 8, and you're going to get 0.125, which is also 12.5%. And it is, Mary, it is 1% of the loan amount. So you get to decide as a person doing this math, would you rather do this problem with points, like, not with points, with percentages, or would you rather do it with decimals? Right? Does that make sense? Percentages or decimals. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. You can either do this with my documents. Okay. You could either do this using fractions or you can use decimals. That's what I'm trying to say. Huh. All right. So that's where the 0.125 is. If you pay them $353,500, your new interest rate is 6.875%. Not low enough for you? Okay. Let's take off another 0.125%. Well, that's going to take another $3,500, and that's going to get you to 6.75%. You've paid 2 points, and now you've paid $7,000 up front so that your annual interest rate is 6.75% instead of 7%. That's not low enough for you. Are you kind of getting the plan here? So you would subtract another 0.125%. And then you're going to subtract another 0.125% because each of these is going to cost you $3,500. So if you, and I'm running out of space, if you want to get to 6.5%, it's going to have to be you pay 3,500, you pay 3,500, you pay 3,500, you pay 3,500. You're going to end up paying $14,000. Is that right? 3,500 times 4? Oh. Yeah. You're going to pay $14,000 up front the day of closing. And all that means is, yes, you get a lower interest rate in your monthly payments, but for $14,000, maybe you should just put that money down and get a lower loan. I don't know. There's so many choices to make. But the key here is when you're doing points, when you're calculating points, they do two things. They move an interest rate. So 1 point is equal to 1% of the loan amount. Oh, sorry. 1 point will move your interest rate 1/8 of a percent, which is the same as 0.125. Or it will cost you. It's going to move something, but it can also cost you 1% of the loan amount. Boom. I know that seems like, oh, this seems like a lot. I get, if you have math on your test, you are going to be asked about points. Even if you're in California and you don't have math on your test, they could ask you as a word problem to figure out points. You need to know this. You need to most definitely know this. Now, whether it's a good idea to pay down your loan for points, that's a whole different conversation. In fact, if we were doing more finance math, I would say, okay, let's figure out, is this a good idea? Should I pay down the points or not? We could do a session one day where I could show you, even not even for the test, but for your own personal, the next time you want to get a loan. Ooh, should I pay to get a lower interest rate? I will show you how you can figure that out. Is it a lot of math? Yes. But you know what? I'll do some math to save some money. Sure will. I like money because the money I save, I can then go buy something I want. Because, you know, I'm a shopaholic. All right. We've been doing this for an hour now, which I think is good, only because I've been taught from 9 to 2:30, and then I did this with you all. How do we feel about Sunday nights? Do we like Sunday nights? It's not a good idea. Yeah, I would agree for this one, McDeal. It's probably not a good idea. Do we like Sunday nights? Would you all rather have Friday afternoons at 3 p.m. or Sundays at 5? I'm not going to change anytime soon, well, right away, but just let me know if there's one you prefer. I'll keep Wednesday nights, but if you like Sunday better, just let me know. You like it? You like Sunday nights? Okay. All right. I'll keep thinking about it. I might do more Sundays. I might. So, unless somebody has a specific question, which again, I'm tired, but not so tired I won't answer a question. If you're done, then you can go on. I will see you next time. Oh, okay, you like the Sunday at 5. Sundays are good. Okay, guys, I'm hearing you. So let's do maybe one or two. Maybe we'll do the rest of January on Wednesdays, just because I've been telling people that, but I'll start announcing that we'll move to Sundays at 5. So come February, I'll do Wednesdays and Sundays. How's that? I could do that. So, all right, so February, starting February, Wednesday nights at 7, Sunday evenings at 5. Yay. All right, guys, I got to go get ready for all the classes I got to teach this week on top of pre-licensing. But as always, so glad that you all came. You are very welcome. Why are you yelling at me, McDeal? Why is it in caps? But very welcome. You know, the people who take the time to do this with me, you're why I do this. You are the ones that are going to pass. You're the ones that are going to make great agents. So I love doing it. Plus, you all let me have fun. So I will see you, some of you all Tuesday, some of you all on Wednesday, some of you all on Friday, and some of you all on Saturday, depending on your schedule. But if you need me before then, you know how to reach me. Everybody have a good night. See you next
Thank
time.
you. Bye.
Thank you. You're welcome.